What is up, you guys? It is Bob, and it is looking like people are actually finally starting to get their $10,000 EIDL grant and or loans, which is fantastic news. But at the same time, it's actually starting to look like a lot of people are not getting their EIDL grants or loans. So like, what is going on? How are they deciding who is and who is not getting these grants? Like, how much are they getting? Why are they getting that much? What is the situation? And how do you make sure that you're actually getting this loan? Because yeah, it's stressful. What if you're one of those companies that actually needs this loan? So this is clearly a really important episode. So let's get into it. All right, let's start off with who has gotten it. The people who've gotten it so far are people who filled out the SBA form that came out specifically for the COVID-19 outbreak. If you did the old version where you kind of just dropped them in and then when you submitted it all, it just kind of disappeared like I did in the beginning, they're saying that those aren't working and that you should be using the form. Now, hopefully you didn't use that. Most people didn't. I was one of the few ones that was there in the very beginning, but make sure you're using the form. And the people who did use that form, it's starting to look like everyone who applied before March 31st is starting to see that grant money come in, starting to see those loan applications come in where the SBA responded to them. But here's the thing, there's a lot of people that are actually getting responses on their EIDL before other people, and they have a much lower application number than the people way in the back. Which is why I'm starting to wonder, well, okay, maybe these things are being processed not necessarily in direct order of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There could be a few things in there that are actually speeding people up. And one of the theories that I think might actually be it is how many employees did you say you have in your company? Because I'm noticing that the people that are saying that they got it tend to have more employees than less. Another reason it could be is they could be targeting companies with a higher income amount that they make, which is on the form. Maybe the reasoning behind this is they want to help the companies that make the most money and they can help the most employees. That way, at the end of the week, they can have the best soundbite of they've helped this many companies, this many employees, and they've saved this much money in the economy. But I don't know, I'm just trying to connect dots of what I'm seeing, and we're still early in it. Now, how do they know that they actually got the SBA to talk to them? Because they're not calling people, apparently. They're not really reaching out directly on almost anything. They are starting to send some people emails for the EIDL loan where you are prompted to make an account with the SBA, and then they will tell you how much you are currently eligible for with the EIDL. The number that we're seeing the most right now is $15,000. And then you can select on this kind of grab bar that goes left to right how much of it you actually want. If you just want the grant, it's looking like you just set it all the way to 0 and you don't take the loan. That said, the loan overall is much better than most loans because it is 3.75% interest rate, which is pretty darn good. It's a 30-year amortization. You don't even have to pay it for a year. And it's not personally guaranteed. And so if you were to take the $15,000, I think the monthly payment is like $70 a month, which is really good if you're trying to get a little extra money to keep your company liquid and keep it going. Could you take further advantage of this? Maybe, but I mean, I would be careful with such an idea. And I've also been reading into the PPP loans, which actually look like they're even better. And the loans can be completely forgivable, whereas the EIDL, it's looking like it won't be. And if you take the EIDL money now, it looks like you won't be able to get it forgiven because if you apply for the PPP, you have to roll in the EIDL and it kind of just turns into a mess. And so if you are applying for the PPP, you might just want to wait on that part and talk to the person who's processing the loan with your bank. Now, how much have people gotten on their grants? It's looking like, well, people are getting the full $10,000, but a lot of them aren't. And while I can't directly associate whether or not the SBA really did end up doing $1,000 per employee, it's looking like they might have done that. It didn't say in the account when they did it here, which means maybe they don't do that, but then again, maybe they are. So I guess for right now, just kind of gauge how many employees do you have. It includes part-time employees, and take that as the number of employees you get. So if you have 3 employees, just be like, maybe I get 3,000. I don't know. Because it's looking like that full 10,000 amount is not the way it's going to be. But hey, some money is still helpful. It's better than none. And there is a second stimulus bill coming into Congress right now. So, maybe you will end up getting that $10,000, just not necessarily in the way that we thought. Now, how did these people actually fill out these forms correctly? What are the things that are popping up that are looking like, that might be the reason why I didn't get my grant or I was skipped over? Well, the first thing that's becoming very clear that all of them did is that they slammed that like button in appreciation for all this free content. And I appreciate it if you do, because I have not gotten that grant yet. One thing some people got wrong on this is that they had actually frozen their credit, which is a problem. Because basically the only real thing the SBA checks when you submit for this EIDL grant and or loan is that you have credit. Not necessarily that you have good credit. Apparently they're accepting people with as low as 400 credit score, but that you have it. And if you freeze your credit, well, now they can't check your credit, so they're just gonna skip you for now. So make sure that your credit is not frozen. Another thing you wanna make sure of is apparently a lot of people got their bank and routing numbers wrong. I will admit that I got it wrong the first time, but I double checked and I looked because I know I get those things wrong. So if you haven't filled it out yet, make sure you do that correctly. If you've already filled it out and you're afraid you haven't, well, turns out there's a right and wrong way of going about this. So the wrong way of going about it, apparently, is trying to just do it again where you fill out a form and you go back through it. In which case, that would just bring you further back in the line and you would clutter the whole thing up. What you really should do, you should reach out to the SBA, email them, and go at it that way. But sadly, by doing that, it's gonna take about 3 weeks before they reach out to you. At least that's what they're saying how long it'll take. One thing I did notice is that $10,000 checkbox, and when I originally did it, I actually wasn't sure if I clicked it, so I actually called them and this is what they said.
That won't stop you from speaking with one of the lenders in a platform that will be contacting everyone on site that's dedicated just for that purpose. There's nothing else. There's no other reason for it to even exist but for that $10,000 advance. There's nothing else.
So maybe if you forgot to click that totally redundant checkbox, you might be fine. But the tier 1 and tier 2 people over at the SBA apparently sometimes say different things. So, Now, what if you have no real clue whether or not you messed up the form or whether or not they're taking you seriously or whatever? Well, one way to check if you're like most people and the SBA isn't talking to you at all is to actually check your credit, because they have to do a credit inquiry, right? So if you go on to like Credit Karma or something to check your credit, you should be able to see if some entity was checking your credit. In which case, you know that they're actually at least looking at it. Another way to do it if you applied later is to just kind of check the comments below or check comments everywhere and see what you're hearing, because they are going in a generally rough order. It may not be the exact one in line, but it could be like at least a range. And if you check the comments below and if you maybe write down your general application number, don't write down the exact number, just your general one, like I'm number 23,000 or 58,000. And if we start seeing a lot of people saying, oh, well, I'm in the 20,000, 25,000 range, we know they're looking at it at least. So if you're able to do that, that might actually be really helpful. And also another way that might actually help know how this is working is if you don't mind putting down the number of employees you put down in the application to see if there's any prioritization there as well. Because that's just a theory of mine. I haven't heard anyone say that, but I just think it kind of makes sense, since they're really pushing that the whole point of all of these things is to keep the employees relatively stable during these tough times, which again really does make sense. And not just politically, but for like people-ly. And if you like this content, if you found it valuable, again, I really appreciate the likes. And if you want more updates, I'm doing more of these videos. So please subscribe, hit the notification bell, get the latest news, and stay safe out there, guys. I know things are crazy right now, but at least we're starting to get some positive news. Something is actually sort of working at least. Okay, guys, have a good one. Be safe in there. Bye.